The colonial rule and the pastoral life. Till now we have discussed what is a pastoral life, how it moves on and how they spend their life. Now moving on into the understanding of what happened to their life after the entry of the Britishers into India, or the colonial rule's impact on the pastoral's life. Let us see here. This has a dramatic influence on them. The lives changed dramatically. Till the time they were happy wandering one place to another place. They know when they have to move, when they have to adjust. They started to make their cattle to move and get the sufficient amount of foods by making friendship with the farmers, and they used to adjust with them and they used to maintain good relations with them. But after the Britishers entered into the life of the pastorals, the life has changed dramatically and became horrible, worried for them. Why? Because the grounds started to shrink. The movements of the pastorals are being restricted, and the amount of revenue what they have to pay earlier was far much less, but now they are forced to pay huge amounts. In the similar way, the Britishers believed that the transformation of the grazing lands into cultivatable lands is very much important for them, because these grazing lands, according to the Britishers, are wastelands. They could not collect any revenue for them. So they felt that it is a wasteland. If you cultivate these wastelands into cultivatable lands, they can produce the crops like cotton, jute, wheat. Apart from just getting revenue, they are also compensating the requirement in England where they need cotton crop that can be compensated with the production what we are getting in these cultivatable lands. So this was the dream of the Britishers. So Britishers selected certain individuals, gave for them certain concessions, encouragements, and sometimes they announced them only as a village headman and encouraged them to cultivate these wastelands into cultivatable lands to generate more revenue, as well as to produce the crops like cotton, jute and wheat and supply this to the England. Here these wastelands are actually the homelands or the pasture lands for the pastoralists. This is the first major threat because of the colonial rule. Now moving on to the other important factor, that is the second important factor, is that the Forest Acts, as we all know, because of the Forest Acts which came in 1878, they divided the forest into three major categories: the protected, reserved and the other villages forests. So in the reserved forest, where the deodar and the sal has been produced or timber is produced, there the entry of the nomads or the pastorals is completely restricted. They are not supposed to enter here, and it's a strict restriction for them. And moving on to the protected areas, in the protected forests also they have only customary rights, that is under strict surveillance and supervision only they have to allow the grazing to happen, because according to them, the British officials, grazing is the saplings will get destroyed because of grazing, and the young plants which are shooting up will be completely tampered by the movement of the cattle. So they don't want this to happen, so they severely restricted grazing at any cost, and they also gave no entry ultimately into the reserved forest, and there are limited entry into the protected forest that also regulated strictly, and permit is given only in the time bound regions, like from this time to that time. They have to mention the entry time and the departure time. Once after the departure time, if you are staying there, you are liable for fines and punishments. So all these made the life of the pastorals becoming tough and tougher. Very, very difficult times where they are passing through. And what happened? The other important factor is that they have made certain acts which labeled them as criminal acts. What are those? The third important one, that is, the Britishers are suspicious and they never trusted the people of mobile craftsmen or these nomadic pastorals. Why? Because the Britishers want to have a settled population. It's very easy to control them, to identify them when they are settled in a specific region. So they used to consider the people, those who are settled, as the law abiding citizens, and they are peaceful in nature. But as we know, the conditions of the nomads do not allow the nomads to stay at a particular place. Because of the climatic changes, they need to move their cattle from one place to the other place. In this process of moving the cattle from one place to another place, they need to travel. So, as per the laws of the Britishers, they cannot move. So, they brought the Criminal Tribal Act of 1871, which states many of the nomadic tribes as the criminal people, and they have restricted the entry of these people out of their villages. They notified a particular village for them, and they have to stay within that village only. If they move out of that village without the permission of the police, they are liable for punishment. Like this, one after the other, the hardships of the nomads are increasing the day after day, because the Britishers started to impose more and more acts. First, the entry into the forest was restricted. Now, moving out of the village is restricted. So, the steps are making their life tough and tougher. Now, taxation. The Britishers did not leave anything for which they can generate revenue. Taxation was an important source of revenue for them. So, they had laid taxation on land, they have laid taxation on water, on salt, on trade, and even on animals. So, land, water, salt, we all have heard, but till mid 18th 19th centuries, we never heard in our country grazing tax. That is, grazing, when animals come and graze, they have to pay taxes. So, per head, they have to collect or pay the taxes to the Britishers. This from 1850 to 1880s, it was let out to the contractors, and it was auctioned, and contractors used to take it for a very heavy charges so that they can collect as much amount they want in order to compensate that one. So, like that, they used to collect more and more amount of the taxes through them. Finally, from 19th century 1880s afterwards, we have the Britishers only directly collecting taxes from the pastorals. They used to give a pass for them. In that pass, they have to show that pass when they are taking the pastoral or the cattle along with them into the forest for grazing. Then they would count per head how many cattle are going. They would enter into the pass, and then they will fix the tax for that. Like that, they started to collect taxation directly from the pastorals. So, the Britishers first restricted the entry, then made them as the restricted into the forest land, then they labeled them as criminals by nature or by birth by passing certain acts. Now, they started to lay the taxation also. So, what was the impact of the Britishers' colonial rule on the life of the people? How did the lives of the pastorals change?
If you like this video, please give a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel to get more videos on CBSE syllabus.